Today, we're going to talk about leadership, but we're going to completely challenge the traditional idea of what a boss is supposed to be. We're diving into a philosophy that flips that old power pyramid right on its head. And you know what? It reveals a much more powerful way to lead. So, quick question for you. When you picture a leader, what comes to mind? For most of us, it's probably someone at the top of an org chart, right? Someone giving the orders, steering the ship from the captain's chair. It's that classic image of authority. But what if that's only half the story? Yeah, that classic image, that's what we call the traditional model of leadership. It's all about a top-down command and control system. The leader has the vision, they assign the tasks, and they hold everyone accountable. Their power comes from their title. And look, this model has built empires, it's built massive corporations, but it is not the only way. So let's look at a totally different compass for leadership. And what's so wild is where this idea even came from. It wasn't cooked up in a business school or some corporate strategy session. It came from a place you would never expect. Meet Robert K. Greenleaf. Now, this guy wasn't a CEO or a famous general. For decades, he was a director of management research at a huge company, AT&T. He literally spent his career just studying how big organizations work. And during the really turbulent 1960s, he started to get worried that our big institutions just weren't serving people well, which meant they weren't leading well either. And this is where the story takes a fascinating turn. Greenleaf's big aha moment, his breakthrough, it came from reading a novel, specifically Hermann Hesse's book, Journey to the East. He was just captivated by this one character, a guy named Leo. Now, Leo was the group's servant, doing all the menial chores. But then, one day, Leo disappears, and the group just falls apart. They literally can't function without him. It's only later that the narrator discovers that Leo, the humble servant, was actually the noble leader of the entire order all along. That story sparked this incredibly powerful idea. Greenleaf realized that the greatest leaders are servants first. The drive to lead doesn't come from wanting power or a big paycheck. It starts with a deep, natural feeling that you just want to serve. That's the starting point, and it changes absolutely everything. So what this really sets up is a tale of two very different mindsets. It's a fundamental choice between two paths to leadership, and it's all about where you think power really comes from. And honestly, you can boil the entire difference down to two simple phrases. The traditional leader, their mindset is basically, do as I say. It's about direction, it's about compliance. But the servant leader, they start with a question. How can I help you? It's all about empowerment and support. That tiny shift in language reflects a massive shift in philosophy. And when you lay it all out side by side like this, the difference is just, it's stark. Traditional leadership focuses on goals, uses a top-down approach, and runs on authority and control. But just look at servant leadership. The focus immediately shifts to empowering the team. The approach is bottom-up. The emphasis is on collaboration and trust. Even decision-making, which is totally centralized in the old model, becomes a shared process. It's a complete flip of the power dynamic. So what is servant leadership in a nutshell? It's a philosophy where the main goal of the leader isn't to be served, but to serve. It's all about prioritizing the growth and well-being of your people and your communities first. The big idea here is that if you take care of your people will take care of the work. So how do you even know if you're succeeding as a servant leader? Well, Greenleaf came up with this simple test, and it has nothing to do with quarterly earnings or market share. It's all about your people. Are they growing? Are they becoming healthier, wiser, more autonomous? And here's the kicker. Are they becoming more likely to become servants themselves? That is the real bottom line. Okay, so this all sounds great, but if you actually want to walk this path, what do you need? What are the core skills a servant leader has to have? Let's open up the toolkit. All right, the number one most important tool, according to Greenleaf, is listening. And for a servant leader, listening isn't just about being quiet while you wait for your turn to talk. It is the automatic first response to any problem. It's about a deep, genuine desire to understand the situation and the people in it before you even think about acting. He argued that true listening actually builds strength in other people. And to really drive this point home, Greenleaf often pointed to this incredible line from the Prayer of St. Francis. It just perfectly captures that selfless spirit. The goal isn't to get your point across, it's to fully grasp the reality of others. It's a huge shift from broadcasting your own ideas to really, truly receiving. Next up in the toolkit, empathy and acceptance. And this is so crucial.
A servant leader accepts their people for who they are, imperfections and all. Now, this does not mean you don't critique their work or hold them to high standards, but you always separate the person from the performance. When you do that, you build immense trust, and you create an environment where people feel safe enough to actually grow.
And finally, foresight. Greenleaf actually called this the central ethic of leadership. And that word ethic is really important here. This isn't about being a psychic or predicting the future. It's about having the awareness to see the likely outcome of today's actions down the road, and then taking responsibility to act on that knowledge now while you still can. He believed a failure to foresee was nothing short of an ethical failure.
So, after climbing this trail, after using these tools, what's waiting at the summit? What are the actual, tangible results of putting service first?
Well, the results are pretty powerful. When people feel served and supported, what happens? Teams become way more engaged. Innovation just flourishes because people feel safe and trusted enough to share their wild ideas. You see way more encouragement and trust, and team loyalty goes through the roof. And this isn't just some feel-good stuff. It consistently leads to better, more sustainable results in the long run. And let's be really clear about why this matters so much right now. We live and work in a knowledge economy. Success isn't about assembly lines anymore. It's driven by ideas, by creativity, by collaboration. In this kind of environment, employee engagement isn't just a nice-to-have bonus. It is the absolute engine of progress. You can't command someone to be creative. You have to cultivate it. And that is exactly what servant leadership is designed to do. But Greenleaf leaves us with one final and pretty challenging idea. He believed the biggest obstacle to a better world wasn't a bunch of bad leaders. It was good people, natural servants, who had the potential to lead but just didn't. He saw that inaction as the real enemy of progress. So that leaves us all with one last, very personal question to ponder. What's holding you back?